Jeff Hamrick again at the University of San Francisco's Financial Analysis program. I want to talk for a couple of minutes about some formatting issues with dates in Stata. In fact, there's a great deal of work that can be done to filter or modify dates that are not initially in the format that you might like them in for some time series analysis project. I'm going to focus on just one particular example. You'll need to go into the Stata documentation and teach yourself additional things if you, for some reason, end up working with a data set where the dates are in a particularly strange format. So going back to this data set that has the IBM prices in it, recall with me that this field called date right here has string dates in it. And though you and I understand what these dates mean perfectly well, Stata is not happy with that variable as a variable that it might work with to produce plots or to do statistical analysis. So for example, if I try to step into the data set and declare date to be the time series variable, it basically is going to say string variables are not allowed, you can't do this. We've gotten around this on some other occasions with the trick of defining a dummy date variable where we just call row 1 time 1, row 2 time 2, row 3 time 3, and so on and so forth. And as long as the original data set is in time order, this technique works reasonably well, though it has some problems. Like, consider these IBM stock prices. There's no prices on Saturdays and Sundays because markets are closed. So treating Monday as the day after Friday for purposes of, let's say, plotting the data set is a little bit deceptive. It doesn't matter very much, generally speaking, but there might be context in which you do care. So let's talk about a couple of ways that you can control or take this date variable right here and turn it into something that Stata is happy to work with. So the first technique that you'll want to use is something like gen. Let's create a new variable called daily, and there's a function in Stata called date. Okay. Now, confusingly, in this particular data set, we have a variable that's called date. So the variable is actually the first argument of this function. So I know that looks confusing, but the first invocation of the word date here is for the name of the function call, and the second use of the word date right here is for the name of the variable. And so if we then use a second argument that's something like month, day, year, remember that's the format of the dates in that CSV file we downloaded from Yahoo Finance. What we can obtain is a set of dates that Stata will recognize. So this is a set of dates anchored in such a way that given Stata's internal tracking of time, the 14,612th day is January the 3rd, 2000. I think Stata is following a convention that's been used by a lot of software programs and computers, whereby I think January the 1st, 1960 is day 0 or something like this. But the point is, we now have an internal set of days that respects the properties of our time series set, namely that when we hit a Friday, we skip over, for example, right here, 2 days before we hit the next Monday. So it's a little bit more accurate that way. Now we could, for example, use that new variable that I've called daily to do plots. So I could do graph two-way, a line plot. Let's plot the closing prices against the daily prices, the daily dates, and then you get something that looks like so. And there's nothing particularly wrong with this. It obviously has a disadvantage, though. These numbers here, what the hell do they mean? What I don't know what the day 19,000 means exactly. So we might want to do some additional formatting work in Stata to get an even better looking date for us to use. So here's how we might proceed with that particular idea. So if I go back here and I do something like format, I can take my new variable called daily and I can change the format of these. And there's a bunch of options. Let me list out some of them here. %TD means daily format. That's like 01 Jan 1960. %TW means weekly, and that has dates that look like week 1, 1960, week 2, 1960, and so on and so forth. But %TM, for example, is monthly, and it just looks like January 1960. So we can convert the variable daily, which has these weird values of 14,000, 15,000, 16,000, and so on and so forth, into something that makes a little bit more sense to us. So I'm going to go on ahead and convert that to %TD, and let's take a look at it by using browse to see what happened. Now I've got, instead of 14,562 or whatever it was before, January the 3rd, 2000, which is the same thing as we've got over here. So now when I step over here to redo that time series plot, it looks a little bit better. It still looks a little crappy in some regards. Like, we now have actual dates on the x-axis. I'm not sure that we need to note that it's January the 1st associated with each tick mark, and the way it all runs together kind of seems crappy. So here's a quick way. There are a number of ways you can fix this, but here's a quick way you can fix it. So if you step into this option right here, Start Graph Editor, and I pull up the x-axis, I get some options right here that I can use to change the labels on the x-axis. So for example, a good trick is to first change the font size to small, and then there's some controversy about whether or not this is a good thing to do, but if you put the dates at angles, then it can be a little easier to see what dates are associated with each of those tick marks. Okay, so there's a lot that one can do to format x-axes, y-axes, add titles with time series plots. Because there's some special concerns about formatting dates, I wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about doing so. The Stata documentation is really a decent place to go to figure out all of the different ways that you can post-process dates to get them ready for time series analysis in Stata. But by all means, please don't hesitate to let me have any questions.